It all started on a cold night, much like any other. I had been wrapped up in my work for hours and didn't feel like cooking. With my usual hunger creeping up on me, I decided to order food. It was a quiet Tuesday, the kind of evening where time slows down and all you want is something comforting. So I opened the app on my phone, quickly scrolling through the list of local restaurants until I decided on some hot wings and fries from a place I hadn't tried before. The food came highly recommended with rave reviews, and I thought, why not? I placed the order, paid, and leaned back in my chair, already anticipating the warmth of the food. The app said delivery would take around 30 minutes, which wasn't unusual. I set my phone on the table and got back to my work. But as I glanced at the clock, the time seemed to crawl. 30 minutes turned into an hour, and still no sign of the delivery. I tried to stay patient, but something felt off. I opened the app again, checking the status. Out for delivery, it read. Another 10 minutes passed, then 20. I was starting to get frustrated. There was no sign of the delivery driver, and the tracking didn't give any new updates. I called the restaurant. Hello, how can I help you? Hi, I ordered some food about an hour ago, but it hasn't arrived yet. Can you check on it? The woman on the other end paused for a moment and then replied in a confused tone. We don't have any orders for you tonight. Are you sure you've got the right restaurant? I was baffled. I double-checked the name of the restaurant and the address I'd entered. It was all correct. I'm sure. I ordered an hour ago and the app says it's out for delivery. There was a long silence on the line before she spoke again, almost in a whisper. You need to be careful. We've had some strange things happening with deliveries lately. There's something off about this one. I froze. What do you mean? Is there a problem with the driver? She hesitated. Look, I'm not supposed to talk about this, but just be careful. Don't open the door for him if he shows up. Before I could ask more questions, the line went dead. What the hell? My mind raced. Was this some kind of joke? Why would the restaurant say that? I felt uneasy, but still tried to brush it off. A few more minutes passed and I got another notification. The food was nearby. I stood by the door, waiting. The street outside my apartment was pitch black, not a sound to be heard. The only thing that broke the silence was the occasional distant car passing by. Then, just as I was about to lose hope, I saw the headlights of a car pulling up in front of my building. A dark figure stepped out of the vehicle wearing a jacket that covered most of their face. I thought it was strange that they didn't seem to get out of the car immediately to deliver the food, but just stood there for a moment. I watched from the peephole in my door, heart racing. The figure was staring at my door, not moving, as if waiting for something. I picked up my phone and checked the delivery app again. The notification said, "Arriving now." But something didn't sit right. I took a deep breath and slowly unlocked the door, about to open it when I heard a knock. I hesitated, heart pounding in my chest. The knock wasn't just a regular knock, it was frantic, like someone was desperate to get inside. It didn't make sense. I didn't open the door. I stood there, frozen. The knocking continued, getting louder and more forceful, almost pounding at the door now. Then there was silence. I waited, listening intently for any sound, but there was nothing, no footsteps, no rustling. Then my phone buzzed again. "Where are you?" it read. I looked at the message. It was from the delivery driver. I had not received any food, yet here they were, messaging me. I quickly called the number listed, but the line went straight to voicemail. I tried to take a peek through the peephole, but the darkness outside made it impossible to see. I felt a sudden chill crawl up my spine. What if the driver wasn't just some ordinary person? What if they had been watching me, waiting for me to open the door? I had no idea what was going on. The panic started to rise. I slowly backed away from the door, trying to think of what to do. Should I call the police? Was this some sort of scam, or worse, something more sinister? Suddenly, I heard a loud crash from the street outside, like a car slamming into something. I rushed to the window, peeking out as fast as I could. What I saw made my blood run cold. The delivery car was speeding off, swerving wildly down the road. But what terrified me the most was the figure in the driver's seat. The face of the driver, pale and blank, staring back up at me through the rearview mirror, as if he had been looking directly at my window the entire time. My phone rang again. It was an unknown number. I didn't pick it up. The next day, I woke up to find the food delivery was still marked as pending on the app, but there was no charge. The restaurant had no record of the order. My account was untouched, and the delivery number had vanished. I've never been able to figure out what happened that night. All I know is that after that, I never ordered food online again. And to this day, whenever I hear a knock at my door, I freeze. Because I wonder who's really on the other side, and what did I almost let in? I've been working as a delivery driver for a couple of years now, riding my motorcycle around the city late at night, making deliveries. Most of the time, it's a quiet and uneventful job. People order their food, I drop it off, and then I head home. But there's one night that still haunts me. I've never been able to forget it, and honestly, I haven't been the same since. It was late, around 11 p.m. I had just finished a few deliveries and my shift was almost over. I was on my motorcycle, cruising through the dimly lit streets when I got an order for delivery. It was a big one, a meal for a family. The address popped up and it was a house out on the outskirts of town. Normally, I don't mind going to these quiet, isolated places. It's peaceful and the customers are always nice. But something about this address felt off. I plugged the address into my GPS and followed the winding roads out of the city. As I drove further away, the city lights started to fade behind me. The road became narrower, surrounded by tall, dark trees that seemed to reach toward the sky. I couldn't hear much except for the hum of my bike's engine and the occasional gust of wind rustling through the leaves. When I finally reached the house, I felt an odd sense of unease. The house was old, standing at the end of a long, overgrown driveway. It wasn't just isolated, it looked abandoned, as though it had been empty for years. But the lights were on inside, faintly glowing through the windows. I wasn't sure if I should even be there, but the app confirmed the order, so I pulled up to the porch and parked my motorcycle. I cut the engine and took a deep breath. Something didn't feel right. I could hear the faint sounds of rustling in the trees around me, but other than that, there was nothing. No movement, no sounds of life. Just the silence of the night. I grabbed the food bag from the back of my bike, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling. I approached the front door. There was no doorbell, so I knocked. Hard, nothing. I waited for a few seconds and knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. I stood there for a moment, listening. There was no sound from inside the house, no footsteps, no movement. Just that oppressive silence. I started to get a little nervous. I glanced around, checking the surrounding area. The house was dark, but I could see the faint flickering of lights from the back window. No movement, nothing. Maybe the family was inside waiting, but for some reason they didn't answer the door. I knocked once more. My hand felt cold on the door. The silence was deafening. My instincts were screaming at me to leave, but I had a job to do. I was about to call the customer and let them know no one was home when I heard something. It was faint, almost like a whisper. At first I thought I was imagining it, but then it came again, closer this time. It was a low, strange sound, almost like a breath or someone talking just out of earshot. I spun around, my heart racing. Nothing. No one. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. The atmosphere around me felt heavy, as if something unseen was watching me. I stood there for a moment, unsure of what to do. The sound had stopped, but the eerie feeling still hung in the air. I looked back at the door and then at the windows. The faint glow from inside had flickered out, replaced by complete darkness. I took a few steps back, slowly, trying not to panic. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. I didn't want to turn my back on the house, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I glanced over my shoulder one last time and noticed something strange. A shadow. It moved across the upstairs window, briefly blocking the pale light from inside. It was quick, just a glimpse, but I saw it clearly. A figure, tall and thin, standing just behind the curtain. My blood ran cold. There was no reason for anyone to be up there. No one had answered the door. I stepped back quickly, my hand shaking as I held the food bag. The shadows seemed to stretch and shift around me, and I could hear the soft rustling of leaves again. The air felt thick, suffocating. I was frozen in place for a moment, unsure of what to do. Then I heard it again, a whisper. This time it was unmistakable. It was coming from inside the house, but it wasn't a voice I recognized. It wasn't even human. Leave. That was all it said. The whisper lingered in the air, vibrating with a chilling tone. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as a wave of panic flooded through me. Without thinking, I turned and ran. I didn't even look back. I didn't care about the food or the delivery anymore. My heart pounded in my chest, and all I could think about was getting away from that place. I sprinted back to my motorcycle and started it up without a second thought. I didn't want to be there a second longer. As I sped away, the lights from the house grew smaller in my rearview mirror, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching me. The ride back to the restaurant was a blur. My mind was racing with what had just happened. Had I imagined it all? Was it just the stress of a long shift playing tricks on me? But deep down, I knew what I had seen and heard. I knew that house wasn't normal, and I had been foolish to go there in the first place. I never found out who lived there or why the house felt so wrong. The restaurant never heard back from the customer. I called the number several times, but it went straight to voicemail. Eventually, I just gave up and forgot about it. But I can't forget the whisper, the figure in the window, or the overwhelming feeling of dread that hung in the air. I still work as a delivery driver, but I never take that route anymore. And every time I pass by the outskirts of town, I can't help but glance at the old abandoned house, wondering what really happened there, and if I'll ever go back. I still remember that night like it was yesterday. I had just moved into this quiet suburban neighborhood. The house was small but cozy, and I was still settling in. The night had been long, and I was feeling lazy, so I decided to order some food. A late-night delivery seemed like the perfect solution. I placed my order around 11:30 p.m., just a simple meal, nothing special. But after a long day of unpacking and getting everything in order, I just didn't feel like cooking. The app said it would take around 30 minutes, which was pretty standard. But as I waited, something felt off. The air in my house seemed too still, too silent, even though I had the TV on for some background noise. The clock ticked louder than usual, and I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. The doorbell rang just past midnight. I was surprised because I didn't expect the delivery to come that quickly, but I figured it was just a coincidence. I walked to the door, opened it, and was greeted by the delivery driver. He was wearing a dark jacket, his face mostly covered by the hood. His eyes were the only thing I could see, and they didn't seem right. There was something strange in them, an odd, unsettling intensity that sent a chill through me. I took the food from him, thanked him, and was about to close the door when I noticed something strange. He didn't leave. The delivery man just stood there, staring at me, silent. His eyes never left mine, and for a second I thought he was waiting for something, as though he expected me to say something. I shifted uncomfortably and said, is everything all right? He didn't respond. He didn't even blink. He just stood there. At that moment, something in my gut told me to shut the door and lock it immediately, but for some reason I couldn't bring myself to do it. It was like I was frozen in place, unsure of what was going on. It was almost as if the atmosphere had changed the moment he arrived. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he turned and walked away without a word, his footsteps slow and deliberate. I quickly closed the door and locked it, shaking my head, trying to brush off the weird interaction. Maybe I was just tired or stressed out from the move. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. I set the food on the kitchen counter and went to wash my hands. The whole time, I kept hearing a faint sound coming from the living room. It was like a tapping, a rhythmic noise that I couldn't quite place. I thought maybe I'd left the TV on too loud, but when I came back into the room, everything was still. The tapping stopped as soon as I entered, and I told myself I was just hearing things. I started eating my food, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from an unknown number. "Enjoy your meal. I'll be watching you." My heart dropped into my stomach. I immediately checked the app to see if I could identify the sender, but it was just a random number. No record of who it could be. I froze, my mind racing. Who could it be? Was it a prank? No, it didn't feel like a prank. My whole body felt cold, and I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. I had no idea how to respond. I didn't even know if I should respond. But then, before I could do anything, another message came through. "I'm still outside." I rushed to the window and pulled the blinds open slightly. I looked out, but the street was empty. There was no sign of anyone. I sighed in relief, telling myself I was overreacting. Maybe it was just some sick joke. Still, I locked the windows and doors just to be safe. I tried to ignore it and went back to my meal, but then I heard something else. The front door handle rattled. Just once, then stopped. My blood ran cold. I stood there, staring at the door, unsure if I should call the police or just keep quiet. What if it was the delivery driver again? What if he was messing with me? I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I didn't hear anything for a while after that, so I decided to go to bed. But the moment I lay down, I couldn't sleep. Every little noise felt amplified. The creaks of the house settling, the wind outside, even the hum of the refrigerator. It all sounded like footsteps, like someone moving around in the dark. Around 3 a.m., I heard a tapping at the window. It wasn't the soft tapping of tree branches in the wind. This was deliberate, almost rhythmic. My heart pounded in my chest. I sat up in bed and looked toward the window. It was too dark to see anything clearly, but I could make out a shape. Something standing just outside, facing the window. The same figure, the delivery driver. He was standing there, still as a statue, staring into my window with those same unnerving eyes. My breath caught in my throat. I backed away from the window, feeling like I was about to faint. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't understand why he was there, what he wanted, or how he had gotten so close without me hearing him. I tried to call the police, but the moment I picked up my phone, the line went dead. The connection was completely cut off, and when I tried again, my phone wouldn't turn on. That's when the tapping stopped. The figure outside my window didn't move. I could feel my pulse racing as I sat there in the dark, paralyzed with fear. Minutes later, the figure slowly turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. I didn't see him again after that. The next day, I tried to tell myself it had all been a bad dream, but the messages and the figure outside the window were too real to ignore. I never received an explanation. The delivery service said they had no record of any strange deliveries to my address. The unknown number that texted me? It was gone. I never ordered food from that restaurant again. And after that night, I don't even answer my door unless I'm expecting someone. Every time I hear a tap or a rattle, my heart races, and I wonder if he's out there, watching, waiting for me to open the door again. Thanks for watching. If these stories sent chills down your spine, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Night Shrieks for more terrifying tales. Make sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new horror story. Have your own eerie experience? Share it in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. Stay safe, keep the lights on, and until next time.